Hello and welcome to It's All Kicking Off, another football roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Adam Wilbourn, Ewan Patterson, and Benjamin Richardson from What Culture Football, here to discuss another burning football issue. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Football on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily football podcasts. But gents, we are gathered here today to talk about Man United and whether or not they are in crisis. Hence why we are joined by Liverpool fan Ewan Patterson.
Unbiased source?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you say they're in crisis?
Yeah.
Benjamin Richardson.
I'm also an unbiased source. I would say it's a hysterical title. I'm going to say that right.
Wow.
Right off the top. They're obviously not in crisis. They are struggling. But they're not. The club's not about to go out of business any day soon. They're probably going to finish in the top 10 in the Premier League.
Aye, but a crisis for Man United doesn't necessarily.
It's all relative.
It's all in perspective.
It's all relative. But keep in mind, last year they didn't even make the Champions League.
Mm.
So what is a crisis for them in 2019? They haven't challenged for the title realistically in 5 years, and I don't think they're going to again. I think they'll compete for top 4. I think they're a work in process. So no, I don't think they are in crisis. I just think they're having a bit of a rocky spell.
8th in the Premier League, 1 win, 2 draws, 1 loss.
4 games in, can we really make any big conclusions?
From their performances,
Yep.
you know, there's elements that United fans can take heart from. You know, the Wan-Bissakas, your Daniel James, your Harry Maguires.
See, I was going to disagree potentially on the positives that we're drawing from Man United early in the season, because I don't think Wan-Bissaka is actually as defensively tight as his stats suggest. You know, we mentioned, well, not mentioned yet, but you know, it was made a big thing of last week that he has the most amount of successful tackles in the Premier League this season. But if you actually watch him play, it's because he's getting beaten a lot of the times. He's having to track back to get back to them, and that eventually is going to be a weakness that is exposed. Just because he has, you know, successful in recovery doesn't necessarily imply defensive solidity. And, you know, I don't necessarily think that Maguire is providing that assured role at the back that they potentially hoped for. And again, the reason why I would say that the crisis, the word crisis isn't necessarily an exaggeration, so they've just forked out 80 million for this defensive player, and already, you know, you can talk about bedding in processes and how, you know, he's been thrown in right away. They've not been getting the instant reaction. I think Daniel James provides some encouragement, some excitement there, but there is nothing about that team to me that screams out as saying that we're in an assured, confident position.
Is one of the big issues the fact that it not only, you know, defensively a slight fragility there, maybe less so than last season, but also going forward, you know, you can always almost excuse defensive fragility if you're scoring enough goals.
Well, just on the defensive thing, I slightly disagree with you there, Ewan. I actually think, although what you're saying is entirely correct, I think the thing with Wan-Bissaka is that is basically what you require of a modern fullback, with who you are expecting to create a lot of attacking opportunities. Good recovery is crucial.
But he isn't a good attacking fullback, is my other point.
Well, no. Maybe not compared to some of the best in the league, certainly not compared to the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, but he's an improvement upon who Man United previously had. And I think the same applies to Harry Maguire, and I think you can only look at it in those terms. As far as going forward, yeah, they are very short up there. They've just sold Romelu Lukaku, who was the main source of goals, despite his troubles over the last few years. I think probably asking a lot for Marcus Rashford to make up all of that deficit. Certainly haven't seen much of Jesse Lingard so far this season. That said, they have scored in every match we've played this season. So it's clear that they can score. It's not like they're completely blunt.
And they look great in that game against Chelsea, we should say. In terms of, well, the score, I should say the scoreline probably flattered them a little bit.
Well, they took advantage of Chelsea. Chelsea, as we've discovered over the last few games, have some clear problems themselves. They don't seem to have any idea how to defend whatsoever, which is a bit peculiar. And that's consistent with Frank Lampard's spell at Derby as well, I should add. I don't think attacking is where they've got problems.
I want to talk to you about Romelu Lukaku. You're a huge proponent of Italian football in the office.
Not every aspect of it.
Not every aspect, granted, yes. And he's hit the ground running over there. Do you think United will come to regret selling Lukaku?
No, because I think he wanted to leave. They've actually recouped quite a lot of the money that they outlaid on him in the first place. I think clearly, I don't know if he'll get time to enact it, but Solskjær has a clear plan at this stage, and it's one that didn't involve Lukaku, if they needed to get rid of him for that purpose, then it's the right thing to do. I wonder if Lukaku's starting to regret the move, already. I certainly would if I was in his shoes. He was subject to ludicrous.
Yeah, not in terms of performances,
No,
we
he
should say.
he scored in his second match, but just a despicable chance from Cagliari again. Fourth time that set of fans has done this, incidentally. So it was entirely depressingly predictable. And also today, Inter fans in the Curva Nord coming out and saying it wasn't racism, it was actually a sign of respect. Well, those comments sort of demonstrate why the problem is endemic in Italian football. It's such a shame because I do think it's the best league in Europe. Genuinely.
Is Solskjaer the right man for the job? I'm not suggesting he should be sacked. I mean, we can discuss that. But obviously, they've gone through numerous, various managers over recent years. And, you know, one thing you always used to say about United, I mean, they were solid. They had the same manager consistently. As a Liverpool fan,
Yes.
you had a period of transition. Can you relate to this? And what
Yes.
do you think? What do you think they should do?
And this is why I think the crisis label isn't too necessarily absurd to say. Is that, you know, a few years ago, Liverpool weren't in a too dissimilar position. I mean, we had Rafa Benitez leave, replaced him with Roy Hodgson, then we replaced Roy Hodgson with Kenny Dalglish. Obviously, Kenny Dalglish, huge Liverpool legend, but, you know, and we brought him in to steady the ship, as it were, and provide some confidence back into the club. But it wasn't, things weren't at an optimum level, and it took years of rebuild, and this has been a long-term project. And I see Man United right now with several years of work before they can get back to the position that they were beforehand. But I will say, despite the fact that they have experienced periodic success over the past 5 or so years, their period of if you want to call it a crisis, a period of stagnation, whatever, that's been going on for way longer than Liverpool's did when we lost Rafa.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think context is really crucial. You know, you talk about Liverpool's little rocky period and the transitional period. I actually think it's more appropriate or equitable to go back to the end of their original, like the glorious domination of the 80s, when Man United knocked them off a proverbial perch, as it was. But that is what I consider what Man United are going through now. Those soonest,
the Roy Evans
years. Yeah. Simply because, like, it's such a dramatic fall from being perennial champions to not even necessarily making the top four.
Or even just targeting top four football.
And it's not something many clubs generally have to deal with or do deal with. You see it in other leagues in Europe. The teams who dominate have done so perpetually for many generations and usually don't go for this long without winning titles. But the Premier League's had a lot of different factors that have changed the status quo that are out of Man United's hands.
Is it also kind of akin to Chelsea? I'm not saying that.
Similar.
Chelsea have always been weirdly sporadic, though, to me. Like, you know, you have Jose in for how many years? You have your Ancelotti's in for how many years? And like their success is predicated on chaos in a weird way.
And also, we shouldn't mention Chelsea's success entirely predicated on Roman Abramovich's
yes,
interest.
that is also a good thing.
So
to
then they're not, you know, their place at the table was artificial to begin with. Man United's was earned and sort of secured over a period of 2 decades of perpetual dominance. It's a difficult come down, which is why anything less than top 1 seems like a crisis.
Yeah, I mean,
so you're coming back to my original question. If Solskjaer was managing, or a version of Solskjaer was managing Liverpool and doing what he was doing, how would you feel? Fowler, if Fowler was, you know,
he's doing the A-League right now. He's in Australia.
If he was managing Liverpool though and having similar returns in terms of success, how would you feel?
I'd want to give him time, because, you know, club legend deserves that much. And, you know, you look at Solskjaer's achievements at Manchester United, he certainly deserves time to get this going. I think he deserves at least a full season to see, you know, what he can extract out of that team. I'd be nervous in the sense that the appointment of club legends occasionally, to me, reeks of short-term strategy. I think, you know, after they lost Mourinho in a very protracted saga, I might add, it felt as though they would have had someone lined up. And obviously, there was rumors that Pochettino was going to come in and be that person. But Solskjaer's appointment, it seemed so out of left field. Like, and it's still kind of weird to me out that he's still like managing them right now. I guess it's it's difficult to judge. I can't necessarily blame. You can't lay the blame all at Solskjær. He's definitely got a project in mind. I think he's made the right decision to focus on people who are motivated young players who want to play for Manchester United, who are desperate to wear the shirt and that. Because I think last season, and certainly in the final months of Mourinho's tenure at the club, you could definitely extract what looked, at least to me, like a somewhat of a lack of effort. People, they looked lethargic, they didn't look happy, and they didn't look like they were enjoying the football. And I think that's one of the things you need to do, and Solskjaer's appointment is to restore the happiness and enjoyability. And that's kind of what we had with Klopp. When Klopp came in, he completely changed the attitude around the club. And the weird thing for me is that I'm not necessarily seeing, I'm not comparing Solskjaer to Klopp or anything, but in the sense that if you want to re-inject a club that's low in confidence with confidence, is that the appointment that does it?
I think we actually did see that when Solskjaer was first appointed, players were actually saying they were happier playing. Like there was a lot of coded messages there, but like Paul Pogba in particular was gushing at the appointment, and then he sort of dropped off a bit, and his head's been turned in the summer, so I'm not sure what his status is now, but that generally does seem to be the case. Like although the new signings, as you mentioned, have been a little rocky in places, it does seem at least like they want to be there, and they are trying, and there's something positive to come from it. It's not just like a completely moribund situation.
I agree. I think he should be given time. You mentioned Paul Pogba there. What is next for him at Manchester United?
This is where I can bring up my tweet as well.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. Obviously, he's there until at least January, so if he's still looking to move, he's going to have to apply himself for the next 4 months, and I think he will.
All I'm going to say is that on this tweet, tweeted by Gabriel S11, he's got hashtag my midfield. And it's all a bunch of Instagram comments that Nemanja Matic, Paul Pogba, and Fred have liked. And the one Pogba's liked is, please, Vena Madrid, Hala Madrid, and a crying face. And it's just kind of like, that's so disrespectful to like your own club if you're doing that. And I did say earlier on in the year that I think it was before the season even started, I thought Man United would do well to part ways with Pogba. Even though he, on paper is their best player, I do think, if someone doesn't want to play for you, that has adverse effects.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but the fact is the transfer window's shut and he's there. So if he's still, the way he plays the next 4 months might entirely be motivated by his own personal ambition.
Putting himself in the shop window.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, you're not going to pay, maybe from a commercial point of view you might, but clubs don't want to pay the going rate for Pogba, which is going to be upward of 100 million euros or pounds for a player who's not offering anything. So, you can't just coast performance and pull a straw. But maybe you can, because Alexis Sanchez did, and he's earned himself a loan to Inter. He said he had no regrets over the Man United move, and I was thinking, I bet he didn't on £400,000 a week to score 2 goals.
Yeah, it's not a bad job, is it? I saw a stat about Daniel James already scoring equal to, I think, more goals than Alexis Sanchez already. I'm not suggesting that Man United will buy players in January. It's very rare that you see sides actually going and doing that nowadays. But where do they need to strengthen, aside from the obvious?
This might sound ridiculous, but one way they could strengthen it is by actually cutting a lot of players out of that side. They've got so much deadwood, and it's so clear that Solskjær and the team have been trying to get rid of them. Some of them probably don't want to leave, and I can understand why. I'm looking at it. I was absolutely flabbergasted watching Man United at the weekend to see Ashley Young still playing for them, and the captain. Now, Ashley Young's been a fine. So Man United, he's always applied himself. He's a really good lad. But I think his time at the top level is probably over. I'm looking at Luke Shaw, who seems to have fell off a cliff again after a brief resurgence. Eric Bailly, who hasn't really worked out in the Premier League, doesn't seem
injuries and stuff.
Yeah. Phil Jones, I think, might be at the end of it. Marcus Rojo's never been convincing.
Who's like to be at Everton over the summer as well.
Yeah, Fred, who's struggled to adapt. Forget he existed. They have managed to get Chris Smalling moved to Rome, which is entertaining.
I thought they got the wrong centre back on loan there. Yeah. Not necessarily Roma got the wrong deal, but I of the Jones and the Smalling duo, I was surprised that Smalling was the one that Man United actually shipped off. I thought
maybe that's what they did. Maybe they showed footage of Jones, and Roma went, nah, but the one next to him will take off your hands.
So yeah, I think if they're in a position where they basically have to clear some of these people away before they can realistically sign, I mean, that's a huge number of players. The squad would be very thin. if they get rid of all those. So I think they really need a very, very good quality central midfielder.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask how they turn this round, and is it about getting rid of that deadwood and bringing in new talent that have got a real passion and possibly youth? That seems to be what they're focusing on.
Exactly what Benji just said. Yeah, it's a case of they have so many players that you just, why are they still there? Like it's
astonishing when you read some of them out that I
think,
hear some names.
Well, that's the thing. Do you think Daniel James is a sign of the sort of signing they will be making in the future?
Definitely. I mean, they were linked to Sean Longstaff for most of the summer, and there's a worry there, in focusing only on young English talent, whether that's overhyping domestic prospects again. But I
actually think it's more in keeping with Solskjaer's attitude. He did coach.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, he coached Man United's youth teams, and I think he has a particular ability to nurture young talent, and that's. If you can bring in players that work to his strengths, that's the right thing. There's a lot to be said in football for actually maturing players. I know this is one of the great things Jurgen Klopp has done at Liverpool. He's brought players on who you maybe didn't expect to be as good as they are, like leaps and bounds. And nearly every player's improved under Klopp, and I do genuinely think that is an asset that Solskjaer has. If given time, you have to have time to do it.
I think they need to sign at least one first-team quality central midfielder, whether that comes in central defensive mid or a box-to-box figure. Because Fred was meant to be the box-to-box figure.
Yeah,
he was. McTominay looks okay. He looks inoffensive at the holding mid role. Whether he can do that at the top level, consistently, and
they do have good young players at the club. Tahith Chong's a particular talent.
Yeah, they have, and Angel Gomez, and then they have Greenwood as well coming through the ranks. They have some really exciting prospects at that club. I think they need to sign another centre back. If I'm being honest, I think Maguire. It's such it's a transfer that makes sense, but it's one of those things where it's like they need a leader.
Well, yeah, not to put Maguire down, but is it a fair assessment to say Maguire is as good as the person next to him? As in, he needs someone there to support him to be able to play his game.
I mean, maybe there was a reason all the Leicester fans or supporters were saying that Johnny Evans was the preferred centre-back for last year. I don't know. That might be them just trying to get over the fact that Maguire's left. It's going to be a case of how he develops over the course of the season. But, they were linked to Koulibaly and stuff. And
Koulibaly's a fantastic defender. He didn't have the best weekend. But,
true. But yeah, I look at that squad and there's not one position. That might be really harsh, but there is genuinely a position where I don't look at any position and think you're going to have a guaranteed good day today. I think I look at them all over. I'm like, this is all very wobbly and insecure. Sure. I mean, the spine of the team as well. De Gea has gone from being, probably the best goalkeeper in the world to looking like Simon Mignolet. He's even got the purple kit again. It's they need a good spine, and
I think Marcus Rashford is ridiculous on his young shoulders. I think he is the focal point of that team, which is ridiculous. You're right. They absolutely do need a leader, and he's the one that I think is inspiring fans, and they're looking to produce results.
I think Jesse Lingard needs to move on as well.
Yeah, he seems to have dropped off.
It's ridiculous. He without a goal or an assist for a year now in an attacking midfield role. That's just not good enough. And I know he's a youth player, or he is a youth player. Isn't he? He came through came through the academy. Even if he's passionate about the club and wants to stay there, you have to be ruthless. You have to look at this team and just, like you say, get rid of the deadwood. Like, you have Rashford, who's a clear, exciting prospect, who is consistent, not blown everyone away, but he's a consistent, exciting talent who has a clear upward trajectory. Everyone else in that team, I look at and I see them either stagnating or having not proven themselves yet.
Just talking about the midfield, I think it's such a shame to let Ander Herrera go in this summer. I thought
he was inexplicable.
I absolutely hate him, but yeah.
We sort of spoke about this at the start of the season, but in terms of eyeing up a trophy this year, we can rule out the Premier League. And you say there's an element of transition and hopefully a long-term plan that they're having with Solskjær.
We can rule out the Premier League, but we should note there are 34 games left.
Yes,
stranger things have happened.
We can rule out the Premier League there. But aside from the FA Cup and the League Cup, you look at that draw in the Europa League: Astana, Partizan Belgrade, and AZ Alkmaar. Is the Europa League a possible route for them? I now realise English teams sort of go, don't care, and then get to the semi-finals and think, oh, this is really important.
It was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Ajax.
So, maybe again.
The difference there is that Man United, one of the teams dropping out of the Champions League, I think, and I think that's ruins the competition for me. Now, this draw is quite favourable, other than the distances. So I'd say it's a lovely draw. It's just in northwest Netherlands. Partizan will be a horrendous away trip going to the Belgrade. do you call it, the Maracana. That's one of the hardest away trips in football. Going to Astana, 6,000 mile round trip.
Kazakhstan?
It is in Kazakhstan, yeah, the capital, which just interestingly was recently renamed Nur Sultan after the president, Nur Sultan Nazarbayev.
Wow.
Stepped down in May, yeah.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Imagine something similar happening.
No, don't suggest it. Please don't suggest it. Let's talk about the future for Man United then. Not just this season, but going forward. We talked about, Liverpool in the 80s and how long it took them to recover. And granted, the game sort of changed.
You could argue they haven't won the title.
No.
Indeed. Will Man United ever recover? Will they ever get back to being title challengers?
I mean...
Frustratingly, yes, isn't it? I can see it.
Yes. I mean, they if not the biggest, they're up there with Real Madrid.
It was only this past January that they were knocked off the top spot of a Dell football rich list.
I think there's again, like I mentioned earlier on, is like if you want short term. You want a long-term project, but you want change in the short term as well. I think until Man United deal with this toxic culture that they have above them, this is going to continue and persist for a very, very long time. It doesn't matter if you keep on appointing old club legends to, eventually that optimism will basically just fade away. And you've got a generation of, Man United fans now coming through who haven't seen, who aren't going to be familiar with the success that they once had. Kind of a similar way to when I was supporting Liverpool growing up, I had no idea, about the amazing Dalglish and, John Barnes and Ian Rush era. Like that's alien to me. I look back at old footage and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But there's a danger that Man United are going to be in the same position. And until they deal with that culture at the top,
yes.
How do you deal with that culture at the top first and foremost? It's not a simple case of organising fan campaigns to get we had Hicks and Gillette, and we obviously did campaign against that as well. But it took concerted effort from elsewhere for that to actually change. It's almost impossible to say. I think yes, they will get back to the top, but it's a case of they need something to happen above the managerial level for that to change. And it's not going to happen by appointing. We was talking of appointing Rio Ferdinand as sporting director over the summer. It's bollocks. It's not happening.
These are appointments that are designed to appease fans of the past 15 years or previous who just see it as a link to the success of the past. It's a very short-term attitude. I totally agree. There are fundamental structural issues at that club, but they don't last forever. The support of a club will outlive Edward Woodward's tenure at the club, and maybe even the Glazers' tenure at the club. So they'll rebound. We've seen it plenty of times. Juventus, it took them 10 years to recover from the Calciopoli scandal, and they've went and won the last 7 Serie A titles. So, and they did that with a free transfer of Andrea Pirlo.
Indeed.
It doesn't take.
So in summary, Man United aren't in crisis, but don't expect big things from
They're
them
just
this
a big
season.
club that's having a bad season, or having a couple of bad seasons. That's not a crime.
Didn't David Moyes' contract run out this year?
Yeah.
We're all still already going to get comments in the comment section, as is. So let's not rub it in.
Clubs which are having crisis, they no longer exist.
Exactly.
If you want to talk about Manchester clubs in crisis, we should be talking about them. Bolton, they do exist, just about, but it's not looking good for them. You can also look at Huddersfield, who haven't won a league title since the 1950s. That's a crisis.
Maybe it's become for so long, but it can't be a crisis anymore. That's just the norm.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice supporting Chesterfield. Let us know your thoughts on the topics we've discussed here then in the comment section below. And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And you can tweet at us at WhatCultureFC. Watch there. Follow all three of us. You can follow Ewan Patterson at
Ewan Ruins Things.
Follow Benjamin Richardson at
BR3.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn. You can follow us all at WhatCultureFC, as I said. And make sure you subscribe to What Culture Football for daily football podcasts. This has been It's All Kicking Off. My thanks to Ewan and to Benjamin. Thank you for watching, and we will see you soon.
Bye.